Did it say? Did you get something that said it's recording on the recording now? Okay, good. Yep. All right. Perfect. Probably couldn't hear that. All right, here we go.
Live from Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, it's the official Joe Camel podcast. You're listening to the Joe Camel podcast. Oh yeah, gonna have a good time now. Oh yeah.
Hey, Merry Christmas and
Hey,
Merry
everybody. This is
Happy
what
Holidays.
the professionals out there call a
The heck? Oh,
podcast
shit.
trailer.
I just started playing the. That's okay. I'll cut that out. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the official Joe Camel podcast. And my name is Greg Lindberg, and I'm here with my co host, Brad.
Call me Brad. Yeah.
Okay.
Use my last name.
Yeah. Well, I'll see. We'll figure that out. You can make it whatever you want.
Right.
But this is our first episode, and it's a holiday episode. And so, what this podcast is, we're talking about smoking, all things cigs, e-cigs, juice, but also mascots. A lot of people like fast food tie-ins and things like that. But late 80s, early 90s, there was a lot of like Joe Camel. Like I'm sure he had his own Saturday morning cartoon or something. Like there was all these tie-ins to smoking for kids and things like that, or that would appeal to children. And I think there's a lot of people that have nostalgia for some of those things. So this is a place where we can openly talk about if people are smokers currently, if they've had run-ins with smoking and they love their time with it, or they had a hard time quitting when they wanted to. This is a no judgment zone, but Brad, what do you think about this new podcast so far?
That was a pretty cool theme song. I thought at first it was like somebody.
Yeah, I shit that out pretty quickly.
All right, I thought it was when you had the announcer voice. I thought it paid somebody to say that. But
I'm gonna bleep that out.
Pretty good.
This is supposed to be a family podcast. I think that would be funny if this was like promoted as a family podcast. But
I think it's a family. Everything.
Yeah. We're not. It's a no judgment zone. So, Brad, have you ever smoked a cigarette? I think let's just ask that up top.
Yeah, I guess it's not the best idea for the podcast. Well, maybe I.
Do you think you're gonna get
I
fired
smoked
from
a cigar.
Job? Oh my god!
I don't know. I think
this is gonna be an ongoing thing. I think trying to figure
out. I'll start smoking a little bit. So.
I know that is the worst case scenario of this podcast is that I get addicted to smoking. My parents would probably love that, but so yeah,
I think I probably smoked a cigarette. I mean,
you think you probably
someone in my family when I was a kid who smoked. And, that person quit, but
because they died or
no, they're around, but they decided it was really bad for the health.
Yeah.
But I guess it's like I don't know when you're like a kid around like smoking.
Well, yeah. I mean, I grew up in a smoker's household with my parents smoking, and I never knew why people came up to me like in high school and stuff and like asked me if I had a lighter and stuff. I didn't realize that I smelled like smoke all the time. You knew me in high school, so you might be able to talk to this. I think, yeah. I mean, I was like, what? I'm not even smoking right now. But yeah, I think it's an odor. But yeah, I kind of wanted a cigarette today, like because I walked like 3 miles. I dropped my car off at Safe Light to get the windshield repaired, and then I was just so cold outside. I was just walking around, and it's kind of like a little like heater, But I think most people that smoke out in the cold kind of just stay in one place. They're not really walking around.
I don't think it's a smell though that causes people to ask you for cigarettes. I always think like sometimes people ask me for cigarettes, and when they do, I'm like, damn, I must look pretty
People are
cool
asking
today.
you?
Sometimes, like some guy in the street, he's like, hey man, can I have a cigarette? And I'm like, this looks pretty cool today. Oh, I think it's just
Well,
people saying
you,
you look
you
cool in high school.
you were just in NYC. Did you see a lot of people smoking around there now? What's the smoke scene like in New York City right now? This is smokes,
No, I
one
mean
of our new segments
nobody.
already.
Oh, the smoke scene.
Smoke
No,
scene
who's
report.
that? There was that comedian director who caught the in America smoking. Rob
What?
Reiner or something.
Rob
Isn't it Rob?
Reiner?
Isn't it like Rob Reiner? He was the one who got it really. But nobody smoked in New York City. I
Rob
mean, New York
Reiner got
is
people
cool.
to smoke in New York City. Is this what you're saying
No,
to
he got
me?
them to stop smoking. I think that
Oh,
was like his. After a few films, that was his like mission to get people to
that's
stop smoking.
I'll have what she's smoking.
Yeah, but anyways, nobody was really smoking. Yeah, he wrote a
Oh,
book. He wrote a book called "Stop Smoking Now."
oh,
Rob
that's
Yeah,
interesting. I
so
didn't know
that
that.
caused the smoke scene to
I know there's a lot
go
of
up.
smokers that
Good
have
air.
books they swear by
Yeah,
to help them stop
yeah,
smoking. I wonder if that is one. But maybe we can find out from our
yeah,
guest if he has ever tried to stop smoking.
yeah.
So are you ready to introduce our guest, Brad? Are you excited for this first
Yes,
episode?
yeah. Although I hope you're introducing him because I don't actually.
You don't know
I
how to
don't actually.
introduce people,
Yeah, I don't know how to do any of that
or
stuff.
you just want to say
So,
you don't know who our guest is? I told
well,
you,
you
you
told
know who
me.
he is.
Yeah,
So,
you told me, but I've never met him before this. But
well, same here,
introduce him.
for the most part. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, we have a great first guest here, and this is kind of goes with our last podcast. We always had musician Dave Segedy kind of as our first guest. This time we have a big one, Richard Edwards. As you most people might know him from Margot, Nuclear So and So's, and his solo music that he's put out for the last many years. Richard, is it okay if I call you Richard?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm gonna just ask you up front: are you a smoker? Are you a joker or a poker?
The
That's what we're gonna. It's what we're trying to find out. Every guest, do you poke people?
last,
Yeah,
I'm sadly no longer a smoker, but I was a smoker. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if I've gone to I've seen you do shows before, and I don't know if I ever recall like seeing you smoke, but I do
You
know.
obviously didn't come to the Eli Lilly cancer benefit where we got in trouble because we chain smoked on stage.
Oh no. Well, I worked at Eli Lilly and got fired from there, so fuck them.
For smoking.
No, no, no. Just
We still got paid, but we got
uh,
not reprimanded, but we could tell afterwards, though maybe that wasn't the right venue for that kind.
yeah, that's pretty
But
ballsy.
time we didn't, we're 20 years old. What do you care?
Was that as Margot? It was like a benefit show?
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
I think it's a benefit show. And but you can smoke on stage. It's like the Nathan Fielder thing. It's create a play in a bar, so you can, if it's part of the performance, you can do it. So
Yeah.
we were sensitive in certain ways, but apparently not in other ways, because in that instance, we weren't very sensitive to the situation.
Yeah, I could
Isn't
see that could
their
be.
whole thing is
I'm
Eli
sorry.
Lilly's supposed to isn't Eli Lilly supposed to invent like ways you can smoke them? Not just
Right.
nicotine.
Yeah, they're probably not exact. Maybe
Really
it wasn't
famous.
Lilly. Maybe it was something more noble. It might have been like
Oh,
it wasn't
well,
like
that's
Riley
noble.
Hospital. It wasn't like a children's hospital or anything, but it was definitely a medical thing.
Hmm.
Back then,
No.
The American Lung Association.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back then, I don't think there was any moment of any experience where we weren't smoking. Our smoking was comical. It was so over the top. And I'm not sure why that was. We were all snacks, I guess.
What do you mean by like over the top smoking? Like,
I mean, well, there's a film. So that these guys in this thing called Le Blogothèque, which is sort of famous as this French music blog, they shot a film about us that just got finished last year. And as we were cutting it, we realized really quickly, like, holy shit, like just always smoking. And of course, when we released it, other people noticed that as well, especially in 2023, where it's a little bit a lot less common, I guess, than it was then. But um, we were sponsored for a little while. I think it was only a half a minute they could do it legally, but American Spirit like sponsored us. So every Wednesday we wake up to this big box of like 20 cartons of cigarettes. Um,
I've never even heard of something like that. That's pretty
yeah, it
amazing.
went on for like 6, 8 months, and then I think there was like they realized they were in violation of some federal statute. Um,
Yeah.
and I shouldn't say their
Like a
names because I
conspiracy.
don't think they
Yeah.
knew they were doing anything bad. I mean, they know they're doing something bad, but not.
I'm wondering here if maybe the timeline works up that somehow that video made it onto the new fresh YouTube or whatever of you guys smoking on stage at this event, and
There's
then
so
like
few videos of us during that period that weren't just a cloud of smoke. And I think even in articles, there's a there's an article in a paper here that where I looked terrible because I think there's like Edwards won't stop smoking in Emily's room or something, and like he's leaning out. Even like we couldn't even be bothered to stop smoking for 5 minutes during like an interview in a friend's bedroom. So
well, I mean, I don't know of a like cool like rock band of or of any kind that like doesn't like someone smoking in it. I mean, that's just always been like part and parcel of like
certainly makes you look
art
cool,
stuff.
but I don't think yeah, I don't think that's why we did it, or that's not why I did it. I don't think.
Yeah, so
But
what's kind of your smoker's journey then? How did you kind of get started? Was it a older person on the playground, kind of like coming up to
mm,
you, to
no,
little
I
little
wasn't
Rich?
like I didn't fuck around. Oh, sorry, I don't know if you can curse. Sorry.
Yes, yeah, I may or may not bleep it out. It's a family
Yeah,
podcast.
I didn't fuck around with anything really when I was like in high school. Even I was really athletic. I was good at basketball. I was real art. I was like artistic and stuff too. But um, I played basketball and I was really good at it and took it really seriously. So it didn't even really cross my mind. I think we did like there's like some drug use a little bit, but not crazy. But when I started college, I think that's when I just started smoking like crazy because you're just going between classes, and I was commuting to school, so I would smoke in the morning on the way there and a cigarette.
Yeah.
I think I always probably realized even back then that I had anxiety issues that I didn't realize, and people don't real. I don't want to encourage smoking, but people people don't always realize like there's things you get that are positive from it. You know, it really helps in situations where you have anxiety. It helps you stay in conversations longer. Most of my like
Is
partnerships
that
or
really true?
things. I'm sorry.
So things I never heard of that. Anxiety. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, just having
Gotta
something to
start.
focus on that's not your body, you know.
Yeah, I'm no therapist, but I could see it like a similar kind of like it's a ritual kind of thing, like grounding yourself is something they say in therapy a lot.
Absolutely. Holding
Yeah.
a cigarette and every 5, 10 seconds puffing it, it really helps like
Mhm.
But is it
manage.
like the drug? Like could you just like
No,
blow a
I think it's the
whistle every 5 to
ritualistic aspect of it. Yeah. I mean, I think I don't really miss the nicotine, but I miss the ritual a lot.
Yeah,
I
I hear
mean,
that a lot.
like
Yeah.
crazy.
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote I spent the winter writing the screenplay, and I actually there's part of it that's like about it takes place in the 50s, but there's a person speculating that someday no one will smoke and that no one will ever understand what these little hourglasses of time gave birth to. And I believe that really firmly. I think it's good that people don't now, but yeah, people also don't know what they're missing.
Oh, okay.
They
You made me
participate,
think you made me
you
think of
Or
two
like
things real quick.
know?
Brad, were you saying something? Something cool?
oh, we're being taken to task. We never smoke. I guess it's not the best
I've
podcast.
smoked. I just never like did it
You weren't like
frequently
a
or anything.
All right.
habitual smoker, yeah.
Yeah, nothing. I've never been that like cool enough to keep it up, I guess. But
Well, you're smart enough not to, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I
It's
think
not
part of it was growing up with my family too, like just seeing how much it
oh,
kind
for
of
sure.
became a drug that they couldn't kick. But thinking of going, that's great about screenplay. I'm sure you've seen like Drive My Car. That has some
Mhm.
amazing cinematic smoking in it. Like smoking is so can be so cinematic, and like I can also see anything cinematic can
Oh,
also translate to songwriting. You've done that a lot. What's like some of like? Do you kind of reminisce about like lyrically how you can fit in like smoking into certain songs or things like that too?
not really. Oh, I don't do that, but yeah, I thought about it more when I was writing the long form thing, just because your brain works a little different, as you probably know, when you're writing like a long form thing than when you're writing a song or something. So, um, no, I don't think about it much now. If I'm like dating a woman who smokes, I can have, I mean, I'll sit at like outside of a bar and have a cigarette or on the porch. And for whatever reason, I found that it never triggers that thing in me that wants to like go the next day and get a pack and start up. But I don't do it it hasn't happened very often. And most of the people now,
Yeah,
especially if they're a little younger than me, it's all like vaping and nobody really
that's true.
smokes.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
for
and
sure.
I'm not going to vape. I'm not going to vape with a girl, even if they beg me.
We're gonna have to use that as a pull quote from this episode. Uh, there is another movie that I saw recently. It's Quentin, the guy that did Rubber. I don't know if you ever heard of that movie. French director. He had some movie like these superheroes that these like French actors that dress up like Power Rangers and like try to stop people from smoking. It's like on Hulu or something. I'll have to
Uh,
I'll have to find out what that's called and share that in the notes here. But
yeah, well, I watched this week. I found a bunch of Lynch documentaries on the Criterion, and those will make you really, really wish you could have
oh yeah, yeah.
weren't such a quitter, you know.
He romanticizes smoking quite a
So
bit.
much, but I get it, you know. It's like, man, if I could get to be 80, because everything's gonna kill you, but if you could find a way to like make a bargain with it, like you can shave 3 years off my life, that's okay,
Yeah, like
you know.
there's so many cool like actors that were able to never stop doing like what
Totally. It does seem
yeah.
conspiratorial, doesn't it?
Yeah, you always hear about that, those people that are like in their 90s and they're like, I've smoked my whole life and
Those are the
smoked really
same
heavy.
people that like have been on the good smack since they were 19 and somehow
Yeah.
they affect their life, you know, because they have the money to get like the
So
little thing that there was
yeah.
supposed they were developing a non-cancerous cigarette forever, and the reason it got killed wasn't because they couldn't do it. Apparently, it was because there's such a distrust of that industry that this government would never really let them get it going. But apparently, theoretically, it was possible,
Hmm.
which seems like such a waste.
Yeah, I guess I mean it's no different than like Diet Coke. I think there would still be problems. I mean, there still would be
Of
like,
course,
oh yeah,
you
this
shouldn't
isn't for
bring
everyone.
anything
Yeah.
into lungs that isn't air, probably. But yeah, if you could cut it down by even like 44%. Although the way I quit wasn't like an act of will, it was sort of an act of God. So I don't have like I respect anybody that can quit. I don't think I could have ever quit if I got really sick
Hmm.
and I just couldn't stomach. I remember getting home. I was like I had an illness that was going to kill me. I didn't know it yet, and I went on this tour anyway. And it was just I was in the fetal position the entire time, unless I was on stage where I was standing up in the fetal position. And I remember getting home and I got into an argument with my wife. And it wasn't a bigger argument. It's a very basic little thing where you stomp on the porch to have a cigarette. I went on the porch to have a cigarette. I lit it. And I'd been on tour for 2 or 3 weeks and hadn't dared touch a cigarette because I was in so much pain. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't touching a cigarette. I could barely drink water.
Hmm.
So I tried to light it as this defiant act during this very benign argument. And I realized like 3 drags into it, like I've quit smoking. This isn't fun. Like I thought I could get home and pick this up. Because part of smoking, the ritualistic thing is also like it's romantic in a cinema, but it's also romantic at your house. You know, it's like there's nothing nicer than sitting with a woman you love and just smoking and talking, you know.
Hmm.
So I thought, oh, I'll get home and we'll get right back to that. And I think that's probably why the marriage broke up
Oh.
because I quit smoking, you know. And she eventually quit smoking because I think she realized after like 3 weeks
Yeah.
it's not as fun to like sit out on the back porch at night and smoke by myself. It feels more illicit
Hmm.
than if I'm smoking with my husband who I love and we're having like these long conversations.
Yeah.
So,
So it's,
so
yeah.
But
nothing ever replaced that in our marriage.
Yeah, I don't see how there's anything that you could replace with that. But I
we
mean, like,
just like both get kazoos.
Yeah, harmonica.
play
Yeah.
kazoos all the time.
We
Yeah.
just started
Yeah.
spending time in separate rooms, which is not the way to handle it, probably. But so many of my relationships at that age were just based on smoking like crazy on porches. But it wasn't like you're smoking and shooting up. It's like you're just talking all night
Hmm.
about stuff that's worth talking about. And I can still do that, but it's not as easy.
Yeah, it's always been like a conversational tool in a weird way. And same with
So
coffee.
helpful
I
for
mean,
that.
got coffee and
I don't
cigarettes.
drink caffeine, so I don't know.
Yeah.
So you could talk about coffee, and I would have no frame of reference because
Oh
I
wow.
I drank caffeine until I started having panic attacks
Yeah,
in my early
yeah.
20s, and it's like I couldn't touch it. I know people now that have panic attacks and still drink coffee like crazy, and to me, it's like that
That's
just
probably
wouldn't
me.
work for me at all. Yeah.
I was drinking
Um,
coffee since I was like 7 years old, probably
See, that's the
longer
way to
than
do
that.
it. And coffee is another one I wish that and Lynch will get you on that too. Is like if
Oh
I could
man.
do anything, it'd just be to drink coffee all day and smoke, and I don't do either of them now.
If I do a rewatch of Twin Peaks, like I just want to drink coffee and eat apple pie or whatever, like
Well, we got
100%.
sponsored by a whiskey company too, and it was during Deadwood. So we were doing these
Oh.
long drives in the bus, watching Deadwood with these big cases of whiskey. We did have to have this like meeting one night where it's like just because we're driving all day and watching Deadwood, where they wake up, we can't like get into the temptation to start dipping into this whiskey at 4 p.m. And I've always been pretty good about that because I like to have rules for myself. But when you're sponsored by a cigarette company and a whiskey company and it's the height of Deadwood, it makes it tough to have resolve.
Brad, this is a good first guess. This is like looking into our future with all these
Oh
sponsors we're
no.
gonna get.
Yeah,
I'm really
that's
excited
true.
about this. So yeah, that's great hearing about how like you did kind of get over that. Obviously, not everyone is going to have a major illness to kind of put them in that direction, or kind of give them that clarity if they want to have that. But like again, no shade to anyone that's still struggling, or they're just like, I like smoking. This is what I want to do.
I think
We're
it's
gonna,
great if you can
yeah.
do it your whole life and you can find a way to justify it and you're not smoking around kids that are going to get it in their lungs.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the secondhand
I,
smoke thing is a real thing, and that's one thing my mom didn't
Tough.
truly believe in. Like I like back in the day, people really did. They're like, nah, it's not real. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
but
Well, I
yeah.
remember the night my biggest smoking memory is actually is the night I can't remember what year it would have been, but we were playing New Year's Eve in Chicago at Shuba's, and so it must have been pretty early on because later than that we would have been in a bigger room than that for New Year's, but it was the night that the ordinance kicked in Chicago, which is one of the first places that banned smoking in
Oh wow.
bars and restaurants. And at the time, it seemed like the craziest thing to do. Like, what kind of fucking fools would ban cigarettes in bars? But I remember at 11:59, all the old timers in the lounge put them all out at the same
Oh
time, and
wow.
it
And
was
then
this
they just
beautiful but
picked up a full
kept
bottle of
drinking.
Malort after that.
Right. Yeah, they kept
I
drinking, but then they go outside and you realize like, all right, it's not that big a deal to go outside for 10 minutes to get a cigarette, but at the time it seemed like the craziest proposition ever.
There's still places in
uh
town where like I live that like you can still smoke indoors. It's kind of crazy. I'm surprised
they
it
used to take
exists.
us to the Sony, well, I shouldn't say their name either. The A&R people from the label we were on used to take us to the Hustler Club in New York because they knew how much we liked to smoke, and the Hustler Club would pay off the fire department. So if they paid like the $300 for the bottle to get you in, I was like 20. I was mortified of like any woman coming up to me and like trying to touch me that I didn't know.
Yeah.
But we chain smoke all night, and the strippers found us really amusing because we were these little dudes like just rifling these cigarettes like crazy and much more interested in that than we were in the. I think I told the story somewhere else, but like they were so enchanted by us, they were like telling us their real names and wanting to meet up for breakfast because they just thought we were these
Oh.
strange asexual kids who loved to smoke
Brad,
and
is
weren't in
does this club still exist? Did you get to go there while you were in New
Hustler
York?
Club. It's got to be there. Yeah, it's right
Come
off.
I think it
on.
Right
still
when you get
exists.
off
You
the,
can
I didn't
right when you
visit,
get off the
but
bridge, the Hustler Club's there on your left.
pretty sure it still exists. Yeah.
uh
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
I remember my wife and I saw Margot play at like this Irish pub with the Elected, and I don't remember seeing anyone smoke, but that was a great show. This week I
We were
don't think,
definitely smoking during there, but we were
yeah.
smoking more on that tour because of who we were on tour with.
Yeah.
Um, well, that kid's kind of a miserable son of a bitch. The rest of the band have remained. My best friend was on that tour in that band. Mike
Mhm.
Bloom is still
Oh
like
yeah.
my brother. like 20 years later, but the little Napoleon at the head of that operation wasn't that fun to figure out. But yeah, we were smoking on that tour, but he was sober, I think, because he'd had some issues when he was like kid actor stuff, you know,
Oh
like
yeah.
everything happened for him way too young, and he had to stop doing everything fun before it got fun.
Mhm.
So I think we were like sensitive to that. We drank around him, but I think we were like, even though he's not that sensitive a person,
Mhm.
I think we were like cognizant
Yeah,
of like,
for sure.
you know, you don't want to fuck somebody else's life up. Like
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
never kind of people like, if you're gonna go find crack, if you have a beer, I'm not giving you a beer, you know. Like that's never, I'm lucky enough that's not been a problem I've had to worry about in my life. But um we may have been being better behaved because
Yeah.
we,
Because
you know.
Mr. Salute Your Shorts was around.
Well, I said that to him because I thought there was a, we were really young and he was not young. And
Mhm.
we went to Thanksgiving at Jenny's house because she's great. To the limited amount of time I spent with her, she's very different.
He's talking
She,
about famous people, Brad. He looks
not
Yeah,
confused.
I know. I'm trying to figure out who.
famous, not really famous, but
Yeah, to
small
me,
time.
yeah, for sure.
Well, she's great, but it
Mhm.
wasn't till then that we realized how touchy. Because I remember someone had given. So he came to see us. This is off the cigarette thing. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
He see us at Hotel Cafe or something, and wanted us to go on tour with him. And we were really young, and I don't think we'd gone on a couple little things with bigger bands, but I don't think we'd done a big tour. And and somebody, so I didn't know their music that well. I knew it a little bit, but somebody gave me a Burns CD to catch me up on it. And one of the songs he sang, they called it "Salute Your Shorts," and I liked
Yeah,
this.
I know what you're
And
talking
so I
about. Yeah.
asked at sound check, I kept asking him, like, "Are you guys gonna do Salute Your Shorts?" And he thought I was giving him shit.
Uh,
So like 2 weeks later, I find out from Mike, he's like, Blake's been like really sad and upset. He thinks you're like taunting him. Like, why would, I'm 20 years old? Why would I be
yeah.
talking to this fucking 90-year-old about the show he was on, which is cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure he saw it. But
Just a
yeah.
misunderstanding. Yeah. I will say at that show, I did walk past him and I was like ecstatic to see him in person, but he was shorter than me, and I was like,
He's a small
anytime
little guy.
I'm a small guy, so I play, Rivers,
I'm
Como, like
small
all these.
too.
I praise anyone that's great
You
musician
stand
and short.
beside Rivers. See, I would tolerate Rivers' behavior more,
He
I
would pay
think.
somebody else to like stand in for him maybe nowadays. I don't know.
Well, my daughter and I went to see them because she was into it. I told this story too, but yeah, we went backstage to say hello to them. So at some point, I was supposed to write something with him, or he'd agreed to write something with me, or he wanted to, or something. It
Mhm.
came through a manager or something, and yeah, he was very uncomfortable. I don't think he put two and two together who I was at the time,
He
and
seems like an
but
intense dude.
I
He's
think
somebody
he's
that's
just
probably
he's
never
really
smoked a
inside
cigarette.
himself. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
he used to be a druggie.
Oh
He's
yeah.
the opposite of all that now, but he was like a pill guy.
Hmm.
But he yeah, I told this story, but my daughter loved this song called Pork and Beans. And
Oh
so
yeah.
she leaned over to him. I was holding her, the picture, and she leaned over and said, "Are you gonna play Pork and Beans tonight?" And he just like looked at his shoe, and she's like this little 6-year-old kid. That to me told the whole story. Is like he's so inside himself,
Hmm.
and he's probably been a torture for him
Oh yeah,
too.
yeah, for sure.
And
Well,
yeah,
yeah. Is anything else you want to say on the smoking end of things? I don't want to keep any more of your time here. This is our first episode. It's supposed to be our holiday episode. Do you have any Christmas? Just kind of closing out here. Do you have like any Christmas? It doesn't have to be smoking related, or like Christmas songs or Christmas memories that you just like kind of remember and like you just want to share, or just to get people in the
well,
spirit.
the only Christmas memory I have that involves cigarettes was I went to I'll try to figure out how to say this briefly. We were on a tour and our last show was in New York, and it was at or no, it wasn't tour. I'm sorry. I went out to New York to see about a girl, I think, who ended up becoming my wife and
Oh
now
yeah.
ex-wife. Um, so I went out to New York and it was like kind of rough going and like I don't remember exactly what was happening. I was staying in a hotel and my favorite. We had this Margot band that I was in had this one house in Fountain Square, and we partitioned a room, so it was like 50 people living in this house, and really unhealthy situation. Like part every night, it was just on till 7 8 a.m. And I went to New York and stayed out there for a while, and I got a call, a really frantic call at my hotel. I was at a hotel in Midtown Manhattan, and this guy, I won't say his name, but this guy that was kind of a roommate of ours, who's older in a band and a great musician, great songwriter, but very yeah, like tortured and everything else, in ways that I'm tortured in different ways, not that those ways. But I got a call at my hotel and just said, oh yeah, so and so ran into we were all at this bar, and he ran into someone who triggered some memories that he didn't like, and it caused a confrontation. And the bartender, who we all loved, body slammed him, which hurt his pride on top of everything else.
Yeah,
Um,
that would do that.
yeah, body slammed him outside, and a guy we'd always loved. Wasn't well, the bartender knew us very well, but just had enough with him. And he got home. So they called. It was like 2 a.m. when I got this call, and he'd gotten home and he'd gone up to my room and thrown everything I had out the window. Drank all my bottle. I'd started this wine collection when we were recording in Chicago, because I fancied myself like I was going to be this wine connoisseur. He drank all the bottles of wine that I'd saved, which was like 13, 14 bottles, literally. Threw everything I had out the window, except for he knew that my brother worked at a comic shop and used to save me Robert Crumb comics if someone came in with like collections. And he knew that my brother had given me these. So my walls were covered in blood. Everything I owned was on the lawn, but he'd set this little pile of Robert Crumb comics real sweetly aside. And then so he went to jail that night. And that's my memory. So I got home and I was writing to him and stuff, and he wrote back. And on Christmas Eve, we got a knock on the door, and he'd walked from the prison. They let him out on Christmas Eve. They took pity on him.
As they
He'd been
do
there,
to all inmates on Christmas
yeah,
Eve.
he'd been there for like 10 or 11 months, and they let him out. And we spent that whole Christmas smoking and catching up. He said he read Soul on Ice 3 times in jail.
So he drank like 13 bottles of wine though.
Oh, and that was after he left the bar. So this was on top of what he'd done there that got him riled up.
I'm sure he remembers this just as well as you. Just kidding.
I still see. I mean, yeah, he sent me some stuff on Instagram the other day. He's still making music and crazy, but yeah, it was a really nice Christmas because I don't think we all knew. I think maybe what he'd done was a little more serious than we realized.
Mhm.
So I
That
think we were
sounds pretty serious, yeah.
yeah, I think we were like a little naive about why, like he'd had a warrant or something.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and I never knew anybody I knew people had gone to jail, but nobody that I'd lived with.
That's a
Great
great
Christmas.
story. That's
We spent all Christmas smoking cigarettes.
yeah, like
And
Christmas and cigarettes brought people together. That is a perfect story. Brad, does that warm your heart?
It does, yeah. You want to start smoking.
Yeah, you probably I could already tell you're kind of getting interested in a little bit. So what was
Cigarettes,
your brand of choice was American Spirits then?
I was a Camel Light person when I started, and I was an American Spirit yellow or light green person when I stopped. So yeah, I was an American Spirit. But it's like American Spirits are so thick, it's almost like it's big steak. Sometimes you kind of want that Camel Light, which is more like a soup, sort of.
Well, if this podcast blows up, and I'm sure it will, that if we ever have like a musical about Joe Camel, we will be hitting you up and hoping you can contribute in
And
some
let
way.
any cigarette manufacturers that get a hold of you, let them know I'm not above starting again.
Yeah,
So
we will. Yeah, we'll have a whole team of people ready to sell out.
yeah, yeah,
Well, thank you very much. Brad, do you have any last questions for Richard or anything?
I doubt it.
Yeah. No, you did. You answered like you like just went and said my questions anyways. Like great smoking moment, like great
Just
guess.
so much. It's
Yeah.
hard to.
Yeah.
I've not smoked, unfortunately. I got those stories, but not many others.
Well, Brad, you're coming back to our
But you
hometown
cannot.
for Christmas. Are you gonna are you gonna do like some smoking around your
Smoke?
family? Maybe. Yeah. Why not?
Impress some old high school.
Yeah. Impress some old
By
high
smoking?
school people.
Maybe. I don't know. ideas in my head. I might do it. We'll see. Wait and see.
All right. Well, we gone way over, and I promise this would be a much shorter podcast, so we're gonna work on that.
Oh, it's no worries. I love to talk about cigarettes.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and we don't have a good way of closing out yet, but if you got them, smoke them. Is that how we're gonna end it, Brad? What do we have like a way to end this yet? We haven't really even
We'll
talked
figure
about
it out.
Yeah, smoke whatever you have in the house.
Yeah, smoke
Yeah.
anything in your house. All right.
Most
Well,
things can be smoked. That's another thing you learn when you're passionate about the project. Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
most can be smoked.
I think we're gonna learn a lot. I think just doing a stupid, I mean, not that smoking's stupid, but there's a lot. It's a good topic to start a lot of other
I
discussions.
think it's sort of brilliant, yeah, and I commend you guys for thinking about it because I think outside the bun, but I haven't thought of that one yet.
Another pull quote.
Um,
This is great for our first episode.
I thought this podcast was mainly going to be about camels, but I guess.
Camels, like real camels?
Animals?
Or yeah, I don't know, cartoon camel.
Yeah, we'll talk about Joe Camel. I mean, do you have any last things you want to say about Joe Camel before we close out? Do you have any
I have a
nostalgia for
great
him?
last thing. I have a great last thing, and it's also in my script. And I found it. Got the greatest Rock Hudson camel ad that's ever existed. And I wish I could. It's buried under all this research, but it's Rock Hudson with a big old camel light and just saying, every doctor I know tells me camels are the way to go. Smooth, they go down easy. I actually inserted the ad in part of the thing.
Oh man,
so-
I love it. Well, that's
That
actually like
might be.
part of the reason why we started the podcast was you sent me that photo of Joe Camel smoking with a bunch of different camels, like doing caroling, right? It's like a painting almost.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was just
Yeah.
smoking with a bunch of kids. I thought, God, what amazing. Joe Camel visits the playground.
You know, he probably did.
I'm sure.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Richard. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you guys.
That was nice
Yeah,
meeting you.
we'll see you. We'll see everyone again. We'll have more episodes and more guests talking about Sig life. I don't know. I'm gonna say something cooler than that next time. All right, smoke them if you got them.
Figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
See you later.